Hello everybody, welcome back once again. I've got another Triangle Strategy character guide for you. This time we are talking Flanagan. The last video there I did on Eridor, and I figured, you know what, let's do the other tank next. Basically, Flanagan is obviously a tank. He's honestly, I don't think he's as good as Eridor. Actually, nowhere even near as good, but he's got some interesting uses. His biggest issue, I mean, and it's pretty similar to Eridor actually, is that his magic defense is terrible. I actually have added 8 magic defense to him already, and so his magic defense is 14 at base level. So this guy just gets slaughtered by magic, which is a bit of a problem because it's kind of one of the things that would actually be he would be a good counter to mages because of his shield bash. Really anybody that's able to infuriate, is a great counter to mages, right? Because they're forced to just use melee attacks. But the problem is, if you are unsuccessful in a shield bash, you are going to get nuked and absolutely wrecked. So unfortunately, he just doesn't end up really being that effective against them. But I suppose where he's not effective against mages, he is very effective against, melee or physical base damage. So let's start out here. 44 strength, not that great, honestly, when it comes to, like a physical based character, though he is a tank, so I don't know if I really expect all that much. His physical defense, though, is phenomenal. He actually is very close to Eridor's. I think Eridor beats him by like 4 or something like that. So, but very solid against physicals. His magic attack is terrible. So even if you want to try to throw, any sort of like range Firestone, range Ice Storm, anything like that, it's just not going to do any damage. Again, magic defense is absolutely terrible. His luck stat's really low too, unfortunately, so he's not going to be critting a whole lot. With his shield, which is again a little bit crummy, but oh well. His accuracy is okay. It's actually decent. So I guess that's one in his good column. But then his speed is not that great either. Actually, I think is he a little bit faster than Eridor? I think Eridor had a 24, whereas Flanagan has the 25. Again, not great, but also not a 24. So. Evasion is okay, not phenomenal by any means, pretty much middle of the road. So, also you're not really going to be counting on him dodging anything. His jump is 32 because he's on a hawk, very similar to Hewitt, right? So these two have no issues when it comes to issues with height. He does only have a 4 for his movement, though, which is a bit of a shame. It's, that a lot of characters have a 5, and maybe I would say most characters have a 5, or even some of them have a 6. But unfortunately, he does only have the 4. So, all right. So let's talk passives. Unfortunately, he's got Hawksbane, same as Hewitt, where they'll take more damage from archers, which makes sense because they're on hawks. He does have Ironclad though, so it decreases damage taken head on. Which is great for certain areas. I'm actually in a level right now, the Crown City, that has an alley off on the left-hand side, and it's a great place because you're really only able to take damage head-on if you're set up correctly. But it's actually pretty easy to set that up as well, right? If you've got a couple of tanks standing together in a line, there's really only one way to get at you. As long as they're not like flying over you or hitting you from the side with, like cavalrymen or something. And then he's got Shield Bash. Shield Bash is great. That's the ability that it's able to cause the Fury status. Unfortunately, though, this is only single target, so it's nowhere near as effective as Eridor's. But it can be good for if some enemy has made it past Eridor, or I don't know, like you want to shut somebody down, like a mage or something that's made it a little too close. That's a good way to do that. So very solid. Again, though, unfortunately, it's only single target, which makes that not so great. But Next up is Aerial Assault. Power is 217, so it says ride your hawk to a selected square. The hawk will deal physical damage to all enemies within range. Basically, this is like a cross formation. So you land, and you unfortunately though that also means that you have to have a space to land, and you end up in the center of this the cross pattern. And so if you can sneak your way into the center of a couple of enemies, this can actually do a pretty good amount of damage. My opinion though is it's actually just really useful to get around. Like if I don't know, if somebody needs to get protected, or some mage is kind of trying to run away or something, you can always aerial assault over to that character, and so you can actually cover a lot of ground. You can move, and then you can use aerial assault to move even a little bit further. Or if, say Flanagan has just been nuked and you need to get out of there and into safety, you can, basically use your movement and then use an aerial assault to get even farther away. So I really liked that ability, and honestly I used it a lot, which is maybe kind of silly, but I used it a lot to just pick up spoils. But yeah, again, like I said, it's actually kind of a great way to cover a lot of ground. Shielding stance is kind of interesting. I didn't really use this that much, but that's because I didn't really use Flanagan all that much. But it says take 50% of damage for a selected ally for 2 turns. You can only take damage within 3 squares of the target. So you're basically just, protecting somebody. This is honestly a pretty decent ability, and I think actually, Flanagan makes a decent, I would call him like an off-tank, to borrow a MMO term. He's not really, he's not on par with Eridor when it comes to holding, the attention of a lot of enemies, just because he doesn't really have the same provoke skill. But he can, protect you a little bit more. He's got Rampart, which really helps out with that. And he can just buff up a lot of your allies and make sure that everybody's staying healthy. And Shielding Stance can really help out. It's kind of interesting. You can use Shielding Stance on Eridor as a way to kind of reduce the amount of damage that even Eridor is taking, right? So you can kind of spread out that damage to Flanagan. Sarah Noah has Shielding Stance as well. And this actually, it works kind of on other tanks as well. Like if you're trying to use like a Groma to tank, or maybe like an evasion tank, like a Milo or something, right? And you just want to make sure that she doesn't get zeroed out. A good way to do that is by just using Shielding Stance and trying to kind of soak up some of that damage as well, some of that spike damage. So very interesting ability. And I just think that that's kind of what Flanagan's role really needs to be. You can't really look at him as as effective tank as Eridor, because he just doesn't have the kit to do it. But he's a good way to kind of do like some sort of backup tanking. Next up, he's got Fortify. It says raise your defense but lower your movement by 1 for 3 turns. I rarely use this, but it could be good. If you're planning on just standing around and not really moving, Fortify can do the trick. This level here again that I'm in is actually pretty good to use Fortify in. Again, really, it's just, okay, you're sacrificing your movement for even better defense. Pretty good trade-off, to be completely honest. Safe Haven. Automatically recover a little HP at the start of your turn. I think this is 50 HP at the end of the game. So it's not much, honestly. I would have liked to see a little bit more out of this, but it's still pretty good. I would rather have this than some of the other passives in the game, right? So actually a very, very good passive as far as his final promotion goes. Lastly, Rampart. Decrease damage taken by adjacent allies for 3 turns. This is pretty good. Again, though, I didn't get that much use out of this because I just didn't use Flanagan as much. But again, this can be really, really good for if you're kind of just sitting in one spot and tanking. Honestly, not even that, right? It's just good just in general. But I guess the way that I play, I often end up kind of sitting in one spot and kind of just hunkering down and tanking, damage, and being able to reduce that is, always a good thing. So that's pretty solid. So all right, let's actually get into kind of using him a little bit. Again, I'm already a little bit deep into this battle. This is which one is this? Let's see. Last Man Standing. So yeah, this is the one where you survive for 100 turns. Now these enemies are quite a bit lower level. Yeah, these are only level 33s, so you're not going to get that much out of this. But the strategy, I guess, kind of still remains pretty similar here. Honestly, this would actually be a little bit better if Eridor was one square forward and then Flanagan was right here. That way Flanagan could turn around and face this direction to make sure that his ironclad ability is going off. Because right now he's just going to have enemies that are going to come around to his side and attack him from the side. And so ironclad, and honestly, even swapping these two would be pretty good as well. But I really just wanted, Flanagan behind Eridor, so he could use his shielding stance on him. But all right, so let's see here. So like I said, I have Flanagan here. He's already got the shielding on Eridor, but that's actually going to wear off this turn. So actually, let's just reapply that, and then the next turn I'll use Rampart. Yeah, let's face him this way, so his back is protected. Yeah, it wouldn't make sense to turn his back to that archer, right? Actually, another good accessory on Flanagan would be the, what is it, Backguard's Cloak or something like that. It's the one that basically gives you steel back, which again, it reduces the damage that you take from behind. So that would actually be pretty cool, right? Because he would have reduced damage taken head on, and he would have reduced damage taken when being attacked from behind. So that would actually make him quite a bit more tanky, and I really should have actually probably thrown that on again, because really the double magic defense bracelet, great, but for one thing redundant, but also the dude's just gonna get slaughtered by magic anyway, and so a little bit of extra magic defense probably isn't really gonna do him that much good. Cordelia works really well with him. I mean, honestly, she works. I feel like Cordelia works really well with everybody, but I like throwing out regens, on people, and on tanks that's even more effective, right? Because you're taking less damage, and then what little damage that you do take, you're able to actually restore, some of that. And regen is just really, really strong over time, and it's a great heal, but you have to be able to take the hits. Yeah, this isn't going to be a great showcase, right? Because these enemies just aren't going to do enough damage to me. But the strategy is kind of, I guess it is what it is, right? Where you really want to be setting up in choke points are really good for these guys, especially Flanagan. Eridor can be he's a little bit more flexible when it comes to where he can tank from, but Flanagan really needs to be tanking things head on to get that ironclad passive doing work for you. So really, again, what I would do here is actually let's ram this guy out of the way. That'll put Eridor there. I can move him like that, and then we'll throw another regen on him. And then when Flanagan's turn comes around, I'll just move him to right here. Again, though, the problem with this though is you'll notice there's archers down the corridor, and actually if I end my turn here and turn my back, sure, I'll take less damage from this swordsman, but now his back is exposed to that archer, and so again, really I should have had that backguard's cloak, I think it's called rear guard's cloak. That's the accessory on him instead, and I think that actually would have been really effective. Not just in this specific instance, but I think just overall. Time to take flight. So, all right. Anyways, that's pretty much it for Flanagan. There just isn't really much as far as combos with him. Again, other than like shielding stance on Eridor. The kind of funny thing is you could do a shielding stance with Sarah Noah as well. You could put the shielding stance then on Flanagan to really spread out the damage right amongst the three of them. It gets to be a little bit redundant and maybe not so effective, but yeah, I don't know. I guess it's just something that you can do. But all right, let's retreat, and then we'll take a look at his weapon abilities. I probably should have thrown an assault, aerial assault in there too, but I think you get the idea, right? You just, I like to use it to get around. You know, the damage on it, and honestly, his damage just really isn't that great anyway, so, you know, and also, it's pretty rare where you're going to get enemies to line up just right so that you're hitting like a ton of them with aerial assault, right? So, I don't know, it can be fun though. I will admit it's fun. And then his quote is, he says something like, "I won't stand for it." So it's kind of just fun to just fly around and, you know, kind of do death from above with his hawk. And the animation looks funny too. So very, very fun skill to use. All right, here he is. So let's take a look here. As usual, you know, he's got the weapon potency upgrade. He's got physical defense and HP. He's got his speed, and then he's got the magic defense. Definitely buy the speed boost first. Then I'd go with the magic defense because he needs all the speed and magic defense that he can get. Then I would go with the physical defense, then the health, and then buy the weapon potency last. He's a tank. He's not going to be doing any damage anyway, so who really cares? Next up, so he's got, again, weapon damage, physical defense 2. He's got Iron Stance, so it says grants immunity to being knocked back. I didn't really find this all that great. And that kind of goes for just generally in the game. Knockbacks aren't really usually that big of a deal. Sometimes they're annoying. There's like very, very specific areas in the game where that can be a little bit obnoxious, but for the most part, it doesn't really matter. And then here's his aerial assault TP reduction, which is pretty decent. And then he's got his magic defense buy too. I would buy this one first, then the defense. Then I would do the TP cost of aerial assault reduction. I would probably skip Iron Stance and then do the weapon damage and then buy Iron Stance last. Again, I just don't find this to be all that, you know, important. And then last up, so you've got Rampart, and then physical defense, and then finally another weapon potency. I would honestly probably go with the physical defense first, then I would buy Rampart second, and then I'd buy the weapon potency last. Yeah, I never really used Rampart much, and it just seems like I would rather, you know, I don't know, get him even more defense, because 3, you know, is, I don't know if I would say super noticeable, but it's pretty useful. So anyways, that is it for Flanagan. As always, hope the guide was helpful, and thank you for watching.